Now, this is a very interesting development. So we know a Ahsoka Tano series is in the works for Disney Plus. Well, it seems like we're going to start getting production on it soon, as we have at least one of the directors announced for the show, and boy, is it a big one. Peter Ramsey, one of the directors of the critically acclaimed and almost universally beloved by fans and critics alike, Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse, Peter Ramsey will be directing at least one episode of the Ahsoka Tano series. As we always say, as we steal from someone else's show, it never hurts to add talent. And after Into the Spider-Verse, Peter Ramsey could direct an adaptation of the phone book, and I would still be interested just because of how much goodwill was garnered off of the back of Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know how much of that was his directing style with his partner on the movie, how much of that was Lord Miller's writing. Just Into the Spider-Verse, I don't want to say gives those directors a free pass for a couple movies, but basically gives those directors a free pass for a couple movies. You're allowed to make 3 or 4 bad movies in a row before I start questioning you just because of how good Into the Spider-Verse is. Josh, you see one of the directors for Into the Spider-Verse is doing at least one Ahsoka episode. Does that make you more or less excited? And where is your current excitement level for this Ahsoka show?
Yeah, no, it makes me excited. I am of the opinion, while I love the multiple directors thing, and I know it's kind of, how do I say this, quote unquote traditional for different people to direct different episodes. I personally have always thought that shows are usually better with one singular vision, one singular director. But with that being said, it's Peter Ramsey. For Into the Spider-Verse is fantastic. For those who are listening who haven't watched it, what are you doing? Why do you live under a rock? How have you not seen it? Fantastic. Easily one of the best Spider-Man movies ever made. I am super stoked for Ahsoka. And I think even more stoked after, as much as I didn't like it, even more stoked after Boba. Because I think at the very least, while they did kind of change some things about Boba, bringing in other characters that we didn't think we'd ever see, which to me means Ezra and Great Admiral Thrawn. I cannot talk
Great
today, bro.
Admiral.
Great Admiral Thrawn. Love that guy. Well,
yeah.
Oh, what a guy! I had him over for the. Anyway, I'm not going to go to that bit. Let's not do that.
Duh, Thrawn. Duh, Thrawn.
He's definitely on the way, and I think to me that is even more exciting. Especially seeing what he's been doing all this time. Yeah, it'll be cool, be fun. I'm still on the fence. I forget her name that plays Ahsoka.
Rosario Dawson.
Yes. You know how terrible I am with names.
Your name is Josh, and this is episode 171.
Who? Me, not Josh. Me, Josh. Who? This one does turn it out weird, bro. I'm excited regardless. I definitely don't think that the margin for error here is smaller or bigger, I don't know, than Boba, because with Boba, it was a character we'd never had on screen, really, and so they definitely had to kind of build from the ground up, whereas Ahsoka has a lot of content behind her, so you are able to build off of that, as opposed to just going from scratch.
Well, also, Ahsoka is Dave Filoni's baby more than anything else Star Wars related. He created her for the Clone Wars show. He stuck it out when everyone hated the character because season 1 Ahsoka is one of the most reviled Star Wars characters of all time. But through sheer grit and determination and growing her up a few years, she basically became one of the most beloved fan characters of all time. So I highly doubt Dave Filoni is just going to throw all that out the window. He's very protective of the character. And I guarantee you Dave Filoni is going to direct at least one episode of Ahsoka. Every time there's a Star Wars show that has Filoni directing it is kind of when the important stuff happens. Yeah. I don't think that's a narcissism thing of like, I got to make sure that I'm doing this episode. I think it's I'm the one that did this with the Clone Wars. I know probably the best way to introduce these. Like Ahsoka showed up in Mando on a Dave Filoni episode. I think Bo-Katan showed up in Dave Filoni episodes, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does one episode of Ahsoka. My question is, and I don't think I've asked this before, and I doubt it because it's just now popped in my head, which is always dangerous. We're kind of expecting Ezra and Thrawn to be the story catalyst for this show because Thrawn got name dropped in Mando season 2. For those that watch Rebels, we know that Thrawn and Ezra were kind of beamed off by space whales.
Which is still one of the coolest finales ever.
Most random.
Like, oh, so cool.
But we have the space whales, and this will probably be the main catalyst of the story. Do we think Ezra and or Thrawn could be the Luke Skywalker type secret, or do you think we would get the casting ahead of time? Like, do you think if Ezra and Thrawn are in the show that they would keep it quiet, or we'd be like, hey, you know those fan casts of Aladdin's Mina Massoud? Yeah, he's gonna be our Ezra at some point, but maybe keep the Thrawn thing hidden. Do you think they would hide that casting, or do you think it'd be like a Luke Skywalker thing, keep it hidden as best as you can? Or do you think they would announce it to build up hype?
I can see them announcing Thrawn because especially if he's going to be the main baddie, at least like keep it till the first episode, like before the first episode drops or something like that. Something happened recently where somebody was cast and then it was like after the show, or I don't remember. We talked about it recently. Somebody was cast in something, and then it was obvious that they had been there. They would have had to have been there the whole time. But to me, I think you have to. Thrawn is the obvious one. I'm okay with them hiding Ezra. As much as I love the Ezra connection to Ahsoka and Sabine, I think definitely Thrawn's going to be more important. As far as a story, you have to have your villain first, and Ezra will just be icing on the cake.
Now, I will say both characters are incredibly niche of like the diehardest of the diehard Star Wars fans know who Ezra and Thrawn are. That being said, of the two of them, I think they would announce Ezra and not Thrawn because Thrawn is of the two names there, Thrawn is the bigger one. I think even those who are just kind of casual with the no longer canon, but some parts are now canonized, EU stuff, people might be familiar with the name Thrawn, or at least have seen his picture before. There's been a whole Timothy Zahn newly canon trilogy, so I think that name is out there enough in the canonized ether that
that's fair.
I think of the two, that might be the more familiar, so they keep that on the back burner. Like, introduce him in season 1 like you did with Moff Gideon, and then he be the main villain going forward. I don't think they're just going to waste Thrawn. I think he's going to be a major factor going forward. I highly doubt he'll show up in Obi-Wan just because of the time difference, but he was growing up the ranks around that time, so it wouldn't be completely unheard of, I don't think.